Are you new to Trello, or perhaps you just need a refresher? In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know so you can get the most out of Trello. First, let's get started with some basic terminology. And there is really only three words you need to be familiar with: board, list, and card. Here we are looking at a Trello board. And of course, you can create as many boards as you like. Typically, a board will represent a significant project or perhaps a list of reoccurring tasks. So in my example here, I'm using this as sort of a personal to-do list where I don't have a specific end date for this board, but I will continue to add ideas and to-dos. Now, a board is made up of different lists. No, these are more than just columns. The proper term is list. And just like boards, you can use these in a variety of different ways. You can use them to group different tasks together, or you can use them in a Kanban board method like you see in my example here, where I will be moving cards from one list to the next with the goal of bringing all of these cards to my final list, which I have labeled as complete. Now, when it comes to editing and adding lists, you will always see this add another list here to the right of your last list. By clicking into this box, you can give this list a new name, add this list, and continue adding to the right. And whenever you want to rearrange your lists, it's as simple as dragging and dropping and moving lists to your desired location. In this case, I don't want to use this new list anymore, so I'm going to click on the three dots where I have a variety of other options that I can choose from, but I'm going to come down all the way to the bottom and say archive this list. Now, the third and final term you want to be familiar with is card. Cards are what are contained inside your Trello lists. In most cases, cards will represent individual tasks or perhaps projects themselves. What we are looking at here is simply the front or the title of the card, but by clicking on the card itself, we can add so much further detail. Now, to add a new card, you will see at the bottom of each list, there is an Add a Card option. By selecting this, we can add a new task. But if you would like that new card to be placed somewhere else within your list, you can drag your mouse in between or above any of the existing cards. Let's say I want this new card to be second in my to-do list. You can see when I hover in between, I have this little plus button. By selecting this, I can go here and give it a title, and I'm going to call it New Task in this example. You can continue to add as many new cards as you like, but now that we have this new task, we can click on it, which will open up the card and now start to add a lot more detail. So let's go through the different features and the different areas within a Trello card one by one. Here you can see that we have the title of the card. In this case, I've titled it New Task. If I want to change it, simply clicking in this area will bring up a cursor where I can change the name of this task. Directly to the left, you will see that there is a circle. This is actually a Mark Complete option. By selecting it, it's going to add a little check mark. And many of the actions which we take inside of a card will appear on the front as well. Now, I can check or mark complete or incomplete from either inside the card or outside of the card. You can see as we hover over, that little circle will be visible as well. In our example, I'm going to uncheck and we're going to reopen this card. Now, just before we get to the additional features within our card, let's jump down to the description, because this is perhaps where you'll want to go next after giving your card a name. Here within the description field, we have a rich text editor. We can add different headings, we can add different formatting, we can embed links and images. And we can even use AI to help us write a description. But this is your place to include additional pieces of information or expand on what you mean by whatever you have listed or whatever you have named this particular card. And no, you are not limited to just 100 words or so. You can add as much detail here as you like. And so this description field can be very, very helpful as you add further details to the information of your card. But between our title and the description is where we can add so many more helpful features. You will see that there is both an add button, which will always be represented here in the left-hand side, followed by some of the most common features or most common additions to our cards. Now, these labels, dates, checklists, and members will also be available here when we select add, but as we add different features, these buttons will be removed so that we can edit them within the card itself. Let me give you a quick example. By selecting labels, we can add or create new labels, which is a great way to help identify and filter different types of cards. So for example, maybe this particular card is a medium priority. So I'm going to check this box here. If you would like to add your own labels, all you need to do is come over to the right-hand side of any one of the colors, hit the little stylus, and you can give it its own title, and also you can customize the color associated with it. In this case, I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to leave this medium priority. But now because I have added a label, you will see that that label button has been removed from the top, and I have a labels area down below. If I want to change this label, I can click on the label itself, or I can click this plus button. Either one will bring up the same dialog, so I can edit and add more labels if I want to. For example, maybe this is a website task as well. You can have multiple labels for each and every one of your cards. Next up is dates. And in most cases, you're going to be using this for a due date. So for example, maybe I want to accomplish this task by the end of next week. I'm going to come over here and select September 19th. I can choose if I want to add a start date as well. By default, this will be unchecked because in most cases it's the due date that is more important, but you can use this if you like. Down below, you can see the due date and also adjust the time. So for example, maybe I want this to be completed by 5 p.m. on that particular date. And then lastly, you can also choose to add a due date reminder. Now the default will be none, but if we open up this dropdown, we can choose if we want to be reminded at the time of the due date or any interval between then and as far as 2 days before. So maybe I want a reminder 1 day before this due date so I don't leave this particular card behind. I'm going to hit save, and now you can see we have this due date here as well. And just like with labels, we no longer have the quick access to the due date. We can now click on that due date here. But regardless of what you have or have not added to a card, all of these options will be available to you here within this add button. Next up, let's add a checklist, which can be very, very helpful as you expand on perhaps the subtasks or maybe the individual tasks if this card represents a project. I'm going to select checklist, and the first thing we can do is give this a specific name. So for example, I'm going to maybe call this a cold call checklist, and I'm going to select add. Down below, here you can see the name of that checklist, and the cursor is now waiting for me to add as many tasks or checklist items that I like. For our simple examples, I'm just going to give a few generic tasks, 1 through 3, and select add. So you can see that we now have a check mark beside each of these checklist items. So maybe I was able to complete task 1 and task 2. It's also going to show us a helpful progress bar here at the top, regardless of how long our checklist may be. And you're also not limited to simply just one checklist. Maybe this is just the first phase of this particular project. I'm going to come up here and select checklist again, and let's just call this one checklist 2. I'm going to select add, And now we have a second checklist, which I can use for perhaps an additional phase or somewhere later on in this particular project. Of course, you'll always have this delete button on the right if you want to select delete. You'll have to confirm this and select delete checklist. And now I'm back to just my simple checklist. You also have the option here to hide checked items. So in this case, especially if it happens to be a lengthy checklist, I can select this option and only see the tasks which have not yet been completed. Next, let's take a look at how we can add ourselves or other members to a particular card. And yes, we'll want to use the Members button. By selecting this option, we can either search for other members who are a part of this board, or we should see a selection of a few members that are already a part of this board. Now, in my example, I'm the only member at this point in time, so I'm actually going to go ahead and select myself. If I was to select someone else as a part of my team, they would have their profile picture or at least their initials represented here as well. And if I go ahead and close this card, you can see how these additional features also will appear on the front of the card. So for example, here you can see that I am assigned to this particular card. To the left of that, we can see that there is a checklist and we've completed 2 out of 3 items. This little icon here represents that there is a description. So it can be very helpful to determine the difference between this card and this card over here, which does have additional descriptions, and some of the other cards in my board which do not. And then lastly, of course, we can see the due date on the front of our card as well. And the nice thing is that the due date will change color as we approach that due date, and it will also turn red if we've passed that particular due date. Once again, if we open up our card, and now that we have at least one member, we can choose this plus button to either add further members, or if we click on the member itself, we can also choose to remove members from a card. Now, while adding a description and labels and other due dates can be very, very helpful, often we also need to attach files, images, or perhaps links to other websites. Here we have an attachment button, which will open up the following dialog. By selecting this button, it will open up the folder on your computer. So for example, maybe I want to attach this PDF. Now I have one-click access to this particular PDF. Now, to the right, we have a few more options available to us. If I click on the 3 dots here, I can select Edit and change the name of the file. This can be very, very helpful. Maybe I don't need to know that it is a PDF file or see the PDF extension. I can give it a version number, whatever that I like. But also, I have the option to comment on this particular attachment, download it, or if I need to, I can remove it as well. And if you want to attach images and other types of files, you can do that with the attachment option too. Coming back to our attachment dialog, we can also paste in a URL or a link. I can paste that link in here, and if I want to change and make it a more descriptive name, I can give it a title down below. Lastly, if we look near the bottom of this dialog, you will see that it will show a listing of the 5 most recently viewed Trello cards or Trello boards. That means that we can actually create a link, create a connection, and attach an existing Trello card to this Trello card. So for example, maybe this Edit Q3 Sales Catalog. I'm going to select that option here, and down below, under the same attachments menu, not only do I have my PDF attachment, but I have this particular card, which actually exists on this board. If I click on this, it will take me directly to this Trello card. And on the front, you can see that we have a new icon letting us know that we have a Trello attachment, meaning that I have something linked, but also this little paperclip icon, which means I have one attachment. Remember, that's the PDF attachment, and this is the Trello card attachment. Now, if we come back to our Trello card and select the Add button, you will see that there are 2 other features at the bottom, Location and Custom Fields. I'm not going to get into the details of these 2 features. 1, because they're not as commonly used, but 2, you can find out more information with my other videos right here on Simpletivity. Lastly, we want to look at one other area which is very, very helpful when it comes to dealing with Trello, and that is adding comments. If we come all the way down to the bottom of the screen, you can see that there's an option here called Comments. This will expand the screen to the right and give you an opportunity to write in a note or an additional comment. Although this dialog box looks almost identical to the description field that we saw earlier, this is where you can have an ongoing conversation with other members of this board, or it can be a great place to take notes and provide updates. Why? Because everything that you add here in this comments field will have an additional timestamp. Right now it's saying just now because I just added it, but later on, it will add this information, September 8th at 9:35 a.m. So you can see a running history of this particular card. You can also see some other valuable details, such as when I was added to this card, 17 minutes ago. So this can be a great place to both add updates, but also to have a conversation with other members. If I come in here and select the @ symbol, I can add other individuals. I can also choose to send a message to all members of this card or all members on this board. So this can be a great way to be specific with what you are talking about and also cut down on the number of emails going back and forth between your team members. And just like how we revealed the comment section, you can always come down to the bottom and minimize that section as well. Expand or minimize as need be. So now that you know how to edit and add information inside a card, let's take a look at a few different ways in which we can manipulate our cards and also search and filter our cards. Number one of the most common ways of using Trello is by moving cards from one list to another. And it's as simple as dragging and dropping and moving that list to the left and right. This is also the technique that we use to reorder a list. So if you need to move something to the top or bottom or somewhere else, we can do that as well. But we're not limited to moving a card from just simply the board view. If I'm inside this card and I'm busy editing or updating other things, I can move this card here as well. In the top left-hand corner, you will notice a drop down, which will tell us the name of the list in which it is currently in. This is more than just a helpful way to see where this list exists. If I click on this drop down, I can move it to another list in just one click, or I can move it to an entirely different board if need be. Now at the top, it's going to give me some suggested places. Do I want to move it forward to the completed list, or do I want to move it back to the to-do list? That may be what I want to do. But if not, I can come down to the bottom and choose the exact list where I would like this to go. Maybe I want to send this back to the ideas list, and I can choose what position I want it to be in as well. In some cases, you may want to be moving cards between different boards. By selecting the board dropdown, we can see all of the different boards we have access to, so we can send it to another place altogether. Now, once you've started to use your Trello board for some time, you may start to collect quite a few different cards. So let's make sure that you're familiar with how to search or filter. You may think that you should come to the top of the screen where it has this very large search bar. But take note, this search bar will search all of your Trello boards within your account. That may be what you need at a certain time, but it will not be limited to simply this board. If you only want to search for content within this board, we want to come to the top right and select Filter Cards. Here, you can enter in your keywords such as CRM, and I'm quickly going to find the different cards that contain that keyword. You'll also notice that there's a few other ways in which we can filter the cards on this board. So for example, maybe I only want to see the cards which have this green website task label attached. I'm going to select that, and now only those cards will be displayed in front of me. You will also see that this filter is telling me that there are 4 cards being displayed as a part of this filter, and I can also come over here and select Clear All. By selecting the filter option, the existing filter will remain, and I can choose to edit things, or I can come over here and select Clear All and return to my main board view. Lastly, let's make sure that you're comfortable sharing and inviting other members to your Trello board. Here we can see that there is only one member of this particular board, myself. But in most cases, you will want to engage with other members of your team. By doing so, we want to come over here and select this Share button. Within this dialog, we can either input the email address of the individual we would like to add to this board, or if you happen to know their Trello username, you can invite them that way as well. To the right, you have an option to choose if they are going to be a member of this board or an observer of this board. Note, you will need to be a paid user of Trello in order to use this observer role. The observer role is basically a read-only role, so they cannot edit anything on the board. Alternatively, you can also create a link and share that link via email or direct message or any other manner. And lastly, down below, you will see all of the board members. And again, in my example, I am the only current member of this board. So now that you know the basics of using Trello, what questions do you have? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you would like one-on-one help with setting up or optimizing your Trello boards, be sure to click the link in the description down below. As a Trello expert, I look forward to helping you get the most out of this platform. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, being productive does not need to be difficult. In fact, it's very simple.